They're the most notorious predators in the world. Stalking deep oceans and lurking in shallow waters, they hunt and scavenge to survive. The true nature of sharks, right now on Wild Discovery.
Out of the Pacific, cauldrons of ash and lava drive upward on Hawaii's Big Island. In these volcanic highlands, heavy rain falls, cascading headlong to the sea below. As the rain collects in swollen streams, debris in the form of dead plants, birds, and animals wash toward the ocean. Their final destination is the deep blue waters off the Hawaiian coastline, the domain of a voracious scavenger. By nature, the oceanic white tip is curious. Few objects found floating at sea escape the shark's attention, but it is hesitant to immediately feed. Like most sharks, it is a cautious, careful predator. A wayward coconut, caught in the current, sparks the creature's curiosity. Though the coconut proves frustrating for the hungry shark, the ocean teems with scavenging opportunities. During storms, livestock, domestic animals, and feral pigs that inhabit the island can also die and be swept out to sea, offerings a white tip will hungrily accept. Some experts believe the oceanic white tip satisfies much of its diet by scavenging. Like a vacuum of the deep, it cleans the sea of the dead and dying, targeting virtually any floating object it encounters.
The oceanic whitetip has a very broad diet, and that's one of the things that makes it dangerous. The oceanic whitetip eats fish, but it also eats squid, it eats rays, it eats garbage, it eats carrion. And they will investigate any object floating on the surface of the water, and if it appears to be edible and doesn't make a good effort at defending itself, they will attack it and consume it. They have large triangular serrated teeth that are very similar to the teeth of a white shark or a bull shark, and are designed for carving apart items that are too large to be swallowed in one piece. So they're certainly capable of eating a human being.
Some of the most gruesome tragedies in the annals of seafaring have involved the oceanic white tip, including a tragic incident in World War II in which hundreds of men may have been devoured by sharks. After a top-secret mission to deliver the first atomic bomb to an air base in the South Pacific, the USS Indianapolis was hit and sunk by a Japanese torpedo. The attack destroyed communications aboard ship before a distress call could be given. 850 of the crew went into the shark-infested waters. 5 days later, when rescuers finally arrived, only 316 men came out. Though sharks were responsible for many deaths, survivors had difficulty identifying the species. Experts rule out dangerous sharks like great whites that are normally not found in the warm regions of the South Pacific, and bull and tiger sharks that prefer waters closer to shore, leaving the oceanic white tip as the primary suspect.
It seems reasonable to believe that these are the sharks responsible for most of the massacres of shipwreck victims that have occurred, these disasters at sea. The sinking of the Indianapolis during World War II is the most famous one, but there have been a lot of cases of ships going down, leaving a lot of people in the water, where after a while sharks accumulated and began to feed on the victims. And in a lot of cases, probably most of the sharks involved were oceanic white-tip sharks.
In his 20-year career as a shark photographer, Jim Watt has had many close encounters with sharks. including an incident when he was driven from the water by some over-aggressive oceanic whitetips.
I think my most interesting encounter with an oceanic whitetip shark was 8 to 10 years ago. And I had one swimming right towards me. And all of a sudden, a feeling said, look down. I had another one coming from below me. And shortly afterwards, I was struck in the shoulder by a third one. So in the period of maybe 30 seconds, we had 3 sharks coming from 3 different directions.
Doug Perrine is the author of a shark book, and like Jim Watts, has had an extensive career as a shark photographer. He's shared the water with tiger sharks, silky sharks, and Caribbean reef sharks. But for Doug, this will be his first experience with an oceanic whitetip.
I've seen a lot of pictures of them, a lot of film, but I'd never seen a real live oceanic whitetip before, so I'm closer, but I want to get in the water. They're curious, they're bold. It works in favor of the photographer because they get close enough for a nice picture. It works against the shipwreck victim because the longer you're in the water with them, the bolder they get. So if you don't have a way to get out of the water, you can be in real trouble.
In this vast liquid space, the dolphin is the most acrobatic aquanaut. A pod of nearly 1,000 pan-tropical spotted dolphins has joined the photographer's boat for a game of wake jumping and bow riding. Many members of the pod show signs of shark bite, but because of their speed and agility, healthy dolphins do not normally fall prey to the oceanic whitetip. Like dolphins, pilot whales are often found in this very productive pelagic environment. Large bulls exceeding 20 feet lead the pod on short but deep dives, where the whales swallow mouthfuls of squid and cuttlefish.
Most of them are up there.
For Doug and Jim, finding the pilot whales is a good sign. The sharks may be close by.
It looks like we've got some pilot whales back here. A lot of times the oceanic sharks will be traveling with the pilot whales.
Though this behavior is rarely observed, experts believe oceanic whitetip sharks and pilot whales are commonly found together. A mysterious pairing that has baffled marine scientists. This makes swimming with pilot whales a dangerous proposition. Not only are the whales sometimes aggressive towards humans, but the sharks trailing behind are quick to investigate swimmers. The sharks, meantime, have their own entourage. Tiny black and white pilot fish often follow oceanics looking for leftovers from the shark's meal.
Coming up, scientists get up close and personal with an oceanic whitetip when Wild Discovery continues.
The photographers must now attempt to divert the shark's interest away from the whale pod. Jim prepares a bait bucket filled with freshly minced fish to entice the predators.
What's interesting about the oceanic whitetip shark is they'll inspect everything, and as you, being a new object in their environment, will readily swim over from the pilot whales to examine you or the boat you're in.
With sharks nearby, Jim prepares a bait on a hookless line. The plan is to excite the shark with a potential meal, ensuring it will stay with the boat and not rejoin the whales.
Here we go, got him. He's down deep though. There's shark. Here he comes, he stayed with us, good.
Though all of the shark's senses are well developed, it depends heavily on its eyes in the final stages of attack. Nature has provided the thin, eye-covering membrane to ensure if the prey fights back, the shark's precious eyesight is protected.
You can really see those nictitating membranes working to protect the shark's eye when it lifts its snout out of the water trying to grab that piece of tuna.
The oceanic white-tip shark is a scavenger. He'll feed on almost anything. We've observed him feeding on dead fish, watched them chew on coconuts. One time when I was desperate and didn't have anything on board to keep a shark around, we actually fed it a bag of Dorito chips, one by one.
At nearly 8 feet and over 200 pounds, the shark is not camera shy and makes a formidable photographic subject.
Very aggressive shark.
Coached by Jim, Doug will spend several anxious moments preparing for his very first dive with a very agitated oceanic white-tip.
This is how you can tell somebody that's a little bit nervous about what they're doing, is it takes them a real long time to gear up and get in the water. So, now having seen that shark beating that bait bucket around, I found that I'm a little bit slower gearing up than I normally would be.
The shark is quick to investigate Doug, approaching within inches. But contrary to its man-eating reputation, it shows no sign of attacking.
At first I was very nervous because it's quite intimidating to sit on the boat and watch this large, powerful animal with big serrated teeth that are designed for hacking apart large pieces of prey, beating a bait cage, gnawing on a bait cage, basically going into a frenzy, and then you get into the water with it. They're a shark that seems to have a lot of what you might call common sense. They don't just rush in and try to grab something. They live in a very unforgiving environment, and they not only have to feed, but they also have to avoid being injured because they won't last very long if they are injured. So they are very bold in investigating objects, especially floating objects in their environment, but they don't attack right away. They circle them, they make passes, and they start bumping them. And of course that's the critical thing to have a long and happy life photographing sharks is when one starts bumping you push it back. You let it know that you're not a piece of dead carrion floating in the water, that you're something that might potentially injure it if it tries to bite you. And you make it wait a little longer and investigate you some more while you take pictures. Then you get out of the water before it concludes its investigation and realizes what a wimp you are and how defenseless humans really are.
Temporarily discouraged by Doug's defensive posture, the shark now turns its attention towards Jim.
Sharks are very bold. They examine any object in the water, and we've seen them over and over again bump, push, examine objects, and then they'll bite. I think one of the reasons we've never had a problem with the sharks attacking us is that we always keep a defensive posture when working with them. I sometimes use a camera to help fend off the sharks. Basically all you have to do is touch them with an object and they'll back off. The important thing is to always keep an eye on the shark and not let them get behind you.
Great. Nice shark. Very calm most of the time. Whenever it would get a big chunk of food, it would start moving a lot faster, get very excited looking for the next one. When it didn't find the next one, it get a little frustrated. After a while, it would calm down again.
For hours, the predator circles the photographers and their boat. Then, perhaps lured away by the call of the pilot whales, it suddenly retreats into the blue. For shark photographers Jim Watt and Doug Perrine, encounters with the oceanic white-tip are becoming increasingly rare. Ironically, the notorious man-eater has itself become a victim of humans. Unchecked to demonstrate its resiliency. The blue shark is a survivor. This wide-ranging predator roams the deep waters of oceans worldwide. And though its numbers have certainly declined, it is one of the shark world's only success stories. Blues have had a reprieve from commercial fisheries. They're not directly targeted. But in some places like the coast of New England, they've become a favorite of sports fishermen, a concern for Massachusetts stake shark biologist Greg Skomal.
Here in New England, off the coast of Massachusetts, the primary shark species that we're talking about is the blue shark. There are several thousand blue sharks caught by recreational anglers every year, and well over 95% of them are released. The shark is not considered marketable, it's not considered palatable, and it's just not kept by a lot of fishermen. Therefore, we see a lot of blue sharks being released every year by fishermen in this state.
Here we go. He's got it. He's taking it.
In a study that began in 1993, Skomal is working to determine the fate of thousands of blue sharks caught and released in these waters each year. Do they survive the stress of capture? Working several miles off Martha's Vineyard, Skomal and his crew use baits to attract the blues in from deep water and keep them close to the boat for testing.
The blue shark is, in the North Atlantic at least, if not in the world, probably the most abundant large pelagic shark. It's fast-growing and matures probably between 4 and 5 years of age. It is productive as well in terms of its reproductive capability relative to other sharks, giving birth every year to up to 80, if not over 100 young. The blue shark is widespread. It migrates into New England waters primarily in the late spring, into the summer and early fall, then migrates either far offshore to the east, as well as down south again to warmer waters.
Its large size and fearsome fighting ability are what attracts sport anglers to the blue shark. Though it is easy to find and hook, it is not necessarily easy to catch, and will often wage a struggle to the point of complete exhaustion. How often this becomes a fight to the death is what Skomal hopes to determine. And like any other angler, he will use rod and reel to catch the sharks and conduct his tests.
He's working really hard. And that's what they do when they fight on hook and line. And the objective of this study is to determine, given this level of physical exhaustion, what the physiological status, what the health of the animal is after you've fought it, after it's exhausted itself, and more importantly, does the animal survive?
In the blue shark, total fatigue is characterized by slow, deliberate swimming and twisting. The shark appears physically spent, but it stores small bursts of energy in reserve to fuel last-ditch escapes. These unpredictable spurts of power can make handling the shark equally exhausting for the biologist and his crew.
He's exhausted. He'll start to roll. It's what they're good at.
We have some of the largest blue sharks in the North Atlantic, right off our coastline this time of year. It poses a slight problem for us because we have to take blood samples from these large creatures, and they struggle quite a bit, and it's very difficult. I'm only 150 pounds, and these blue sharks are twice my size. Our only advantage is getting their tail out of the water and being able to control them that way.
You can go ahead and lower it. It's about a 225-pound blue shark. It's a large one. We usually don't sample them this big. Now, snap. He's twisting so much he snapped the syringe right off.
By taking blood from the shark, Skomal can measure its stress level by monitoring pH and lactate levels found in the blood. These levels are crucial in determining whether or not sharks survive these types of ordeals. The next step is attaching an acoustic transmitter to the animal. This device will allow Skomal to track the shark after release, recording what it does,
Let him go.
and where it goes.
Away! He mowed it away. That's a great observation. He's doing all right. Considering he was on the line for an hour and a half. He was pretty exhausted. I know I am.
Using an onboard receiver connected to a hydrophone below the water which hears the acoustic transmitter, the crew is then able to follow the shark's every move.
Once the animal is released, we then record the location of the animal as well as the depth of the animal and follow the animals for several hours. If the animal was to go to the bottom, for example, and stay there and not move, then we know that the fight probably caused the animal to die. Fortunately, we have not had that happen.
The recovery period for the blue shark lasts several hours. It will make a series of deep dives before stabilizing, and in most cases resuming its normal behavior.
Our real objective of the study was to look at post-release survivorship for one reason. If we're releasing a whole bunch of fish every year, on the order of several thousand, and there's a certain percentage are dying because of the stress that they undergo, then we have to consider managing the species a little bit differently. Luckily, we're finding the opposite to be true, is that these animals are capable of recovering. And that's great. That's great for managers and great for fishermen.
Experts have speculated that the bull shark's aggressive nature may be due in part to high levels of testosterone found in its blood. This aggression hormone has been measured in bull sharks at higher levels than in mating adult bull elephants, putting the bull shark high on many experts' most dangerous list.
Well, actually, I would say it's probably the most notorious shark there is. I would consider them definitely more dangerous than a white shark or so. But then again, you know, probability that you get bitten by one of these guys is so slim. I do not really believe in this whole who is dangerous thing. So, but overall, I would say these other guys.
Bull sharks have a very bad reputation due to the possible facts that they have attacked human beings, but it's overrated. Sharks have absolutely no idea what a human being is. No, a shark has to find out what we are. They're curious animals, and that's why sharks approach us.
Despite the bull's aggressive reputation, Ritter has found that they will not approach him without the lure of bait. Before he can swim with them, he will often spend hours hand-feeding the sharks until they overcome their shyness.
Well, what I try to do now is I try to go a little closer step by step. And the idea is I don't want to scare him off, but I want to make him comfortable with my presence.
Normally, the presence of blood in the water would make a bull shark even more of a threat. But for Ritter, exciting the sharks to the point of frenzy is insurance the animals will not leave before he can conduct his experiments. The key for safely diving with sharks, according to Ritter, is controlling his own heart rate. By using a heart rate monitor, Ritter prepares himself for a swim few people would dare to attempt.
We found out that if you have a really high heartbeat, tend to be nervous, and then you make some additional movements in the water you would normally not do when you're really calm. And we found out that sharks don't really like high heart rate.
I dive with a heart rate monitor to control myself. Sometimes I get very excited, you know, my heart rate goes through the roof because, wow, you know, there's a bull shark and it's great. So I have to stay as cool as possible, between 40 and 50 beats per minute. That's about the best you can get, and that's how I try to do all my experiments.
Ritter has found by staying calm in the water, he can keep the sharks calm, making them less likely to attack. But this is not always the scientist's goal. To learn why a shark may bite a human, he must push the animal to the brink of attack.
When I swim with a shark, I try to get a reaction from the shark. I want to see how he reacts if I swim towards him, if I swim away from him. So I try to trigger reaction in these animals. I try to lure in a shark, so I try every stupid thing I can to get him in and create something that may actually would lead to a bite, because then we know why a shark bites. I've been nipped by some sharks, and the reason why I have been nipped, well, actually more than once, is because sometimes I try to push a shark to the limit. I try really to push the animal. I poke him, I push him away, I hit him, and knowing that sooner or later he will snap. And I just want to go see how far I can go, and actually you can go very, very far before a shark really turns on you.
Ritter believes, like humans, sharks need their space. It is his job to invade that space, or what he terms personal distance, in order to determine just how far a shark can be pushed.
What we have here right now are 4 bull sharks, pretty good size. What I can say for sure, all of them are males and mature males. And what I will do now is I try to swim parallel to these bull sharks. I want to check their reaction, what we call the personal distance, to see how much it takes if I feel confident with my presence in the water.
To measure the shark's personal distance, Ritter swims in patterns above and alongside the animal, while carefully observing its body language. Rapid and irregular swimming, arched back and pointed pectoral fins have been observed in the grey reef shark prior to attack. Species like the bull shark may give off more subtle clues when they feel threatened.
Each species has a different body language, and sometimes you have juveniles that have a different language compared to males or females of the same species. So it's very important to learn all these dialects of the different body languages.
Many shark attacks, according to Ritter, are accidents resulting from a shark's curiosity about humans in the water. Though sharks are usually cautious and will avoid human activity, splashing sounds may fuel the shark's curiosity.
Many of these accidents, I believe, just happen because the shark does not know what's going on, and he bites out of curiosity. A person should avoid while swimming with a bull shark is splashing. Bull sharks like splashing, and it's not that a shark would bite because of splashing, it just gets more curious. What is that thing at the water surface that does these weird sounds?
Coming up, the chance of attack increases as the sun goes down, and lemon sharks join in when Wild Discovery returns.
The lights needed for filming penetrate the darkness only a few feet, turning the shadows into a murky arena where uncountable sharks suddenly appear, drawn by the lights and food, then quickly retreat out of view. Another predator has joined the buffet, the lemon shark. A nocturnal hunter, the lemon can grow as large as the bull shark, and its reputation for biting without provocation has caused many shark experts to rank it high on the danger scale. The combination of these two large species, lemon and bull, has made the sharks more competitive and less cautious. No one can predict if the addition of artificial lighting might add to the shark's aggression. Ritter is vulnerable, but he must remain calm, knowing the only thing separating these hungry sharks from their food is his outstretched hand.
She's looking. You see, she's looking. Now she's coming. You see? We just do not move. Just do not move. And he says, this is very nice. Now she came very close. She will sense my presence, but I was not a threat to them. I did not move my foot. If I would have moved my foot, she would
taken off right away. And these are really sharks that can seriously bite if they really would be, but as we can see, they don't care. They don't care that we're here. So if we follow certain rules, it's a pretty controllable situation.
Though the risk of being attacked by a shark is extremely minimal in any situation, most experts agree that swimming at night in known shark habitats increases the odds of an encounter. Many species are known to prefer deep water during the day and are believed to move inshore at dusk to feed in the shallows.
See it? Look at this, look at this. Ah, isn't she awesome?
The questions Ritter hopes to answer is how these sharks, docile all day, will react to a swimmer at night. And how will the scenario change with the addition of several large and somewhat skittish lemon sharks?
They definitely have a harder time to see us, so we want to see how they approach us now when it's dark. Lemons are kind of unpredictable how they behave. One day they're in a really good mood, the other day they're very spooky and they don't hardly come close, so it's definitely a different scenario if you're trying it during the night.
In darkness, the swimmer is a vulnerable target. Though he can barely see the sharks in the murk, he knows they are close by feeling the wash of their powerful tails. For several minutes, the sharks circle just beyond the reach of his flashlight, yet they will not approach. These so-called man-eaters once again chose to avoid the swimmer and concentrate on the bait.
The next time a person encounters a shark, he should learn to enjoy the animal. Don't be afraid or scared of the animal, just enjoy. Probably it's the only time you will ever see a shark in your life. And most likely you're the first person the shark has seen, so enjoy it.
For many, the shark will always represent a nightmarish stalker of the deep. A hated and indiscriminate eating machine, hell-bent on devouring humans. For advocates of the shark, changing attitudes, erasing the myths, and calming the irrational fears is an uphill battle that cannot be won simply with words. Overhauling the shark's image, exposing its true nature, and learning to peacefully coexist with it can only be accomplished by those willing to meet the shark face to face. Perhaps a new generation, armed with knowledge gained in these up-close encounters, will look to the shark not as a source of fear, but as a symbol of the thrill and beauty of the deep blue.
Up next, an idea first sketched out on a dinner